It's not as if she were a maniac, a raving thing. She just goes a little mad sometimes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Psycho is a 1960 horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock that is considered one of the most iconic and influential horror movies in history. It follows Phoenix real estate secretary Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh. After a Friday afternoon hump with her boyfriend, divorced Sam Loomis, played by John Gavin, the two discuss their future together. Marion wants to marry Sam, but he has debts, including alimony payments to his ex-wife.
Sam, let's get married.
Yeah. Live with me in a storeroom behind a hardware store in Fairvale. We'll have lots of laughs. Tell you what, when I send my ex-wife her alimony, you can lick the stamps.
I'll lick the stamps.
Marion returns to the office where she works and sees a client played by Frank Albertson paying her boss, Mr. Lowry, played by Vaughn Taylor, $40,000 in cash to buy a house. Mr. Lowry asks Marion to place the money in a safe deposit box at the bank until Monday. After requesting the rest of the afternoon off, Marion decides to keep the money herself, pack a bag, and drive to Fairvale, California to be with Sam. However, all of this quickly goes awry when her boss spots her at an intersection. Worried that she has been found out already, she continues driving towards California, eventually trading in her car for a new one with California plates.
That's the one I'd have picked for you myself.
How much?
Go ahead, spin it around the block.
It looks fine. How much would it be with my car?
You mean you don't want the usual day and a half to think it over? You are in a hurry, aren't you? Somebody chasing you?
Of course not. Please.
When bad weather strikes, she stops for the night at the Bates Motel, located off of the main highway only 15 miles from Fairvale. Arriving at the very vacant motel, she meets the proprietor, Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins.
Dirty night.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies. 12 cabins, 12 vacancies. They moved away the highway.
Oh, I thought I'd gotten off the main road.
I knew you must have. Nobody ever stops here anymore unless they've done that.
He lives with his mother in a large Gothic-looking house overlooking the motel. Marion registers under a false name, and Norman checks her into cabin 1, just next door to the main office.
You're not really going to go out again and drive up to the diner, are you?
No.
Well, then would you do me a favor? Would you have dinner with me? I was just about to myself. You know, nothing special, just sandwiches and milk, but I'd like it very much if you'd come up to the house. I don't set a fancy table, but the kitchen's awful homey.
I'd like to.
Marion overhears an argument between Norman and his mother, who seems to have a low opinion of young women.
And then what? After supper, music? Whispers?
Mother, she's just a stranger. She's hungry and it's raining out.
Mother, she's just a stranger. As if men don't desire strangers. As if... Oh, I refuse to speak of disgusting things because they disgust me. You understand, boy? Go on, go tell her she'll not be appeasing her ugly appetite with my food or my son.
Marion joins Norman for sandwiches, and he laments to her his feelings about his living situation with his mother, making him feel trapped, similar to how Marion feels having stolen the money from her job in Phoenix.
We're all in our private traps, clamped in them, and none of us can ever get out. We scratch and claw, but only at the air, only at each other. And for all of it, we never budge an inch.
She heads to her room while Norman watches her change from a peephole in the wall. This excites him greatly, and he returns back to his house. In the meantime, Marion decides that maybe she can return the money and tries to calculate how to pay back what she has already spent. She then decides to take a relaxing shower. Norman comes running back from the house to find Marion dead. He wraps her body in the shower curtain, cleans up the murder scene, and puts her and all of her belongings, including the stolen cash, into the trunk of her car. He drives down to a nearby wetland and pushes the car in, watching it slowly disappear into the swampy bog. A few days later, Sam Loomis is approached by Marion's sister Lila Crane, played by Vera Miles, as well as private detective Milton Arbogast, played by Martin Balsam. Arbogast was hired to track down the $40,000.
Well, one of you better tell me what's going on and tell me fast. I can take just so much of this nonsense.
Take it easy, friend. Take it easy. It's just your girlfriend stole $40,000.
What are you talking about? What is this?
She was supposed to bank it on Friday for her boss. And she didn't. And no one has seen her since.
Eventually, Arbogast finds out that Marion stayed at Bates Motel, and all three characters soon find themselves at the mercy of a psycho. This movie was filmed from October 1959 until February of 1960. Director Sir Alfred Hitchcock was so pleased with the score written by Bernard Herrmann that he doubled the composer's salary to over $34,000. Hitchcock later said 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music. Ironically, he was originally adamant that there should be no music in the shower scene, but he was persuaded by his wife to give it a try. The screeching violins and dire strings would inspire the 1975 hit film Jaws, and ended up selling the scene and driving theatrical audiences beyond anything they had ever experienced before. Considered for the role of Marion were Eva Marie Saint, Lee Remick, Angie Dickinson, Piper Laurie, Martha Heyer, Hope Lange, Shirley Jones, Lana Turner, and Gene Simmons. Alfred Hitchcock wanted Stuart Whitman, Tom Tryon, Brian Keith, Cliff Robertson, or Rod Taylor for the role of Sam Loomis, but Universal Pictures insisted on John Gavin. In the opening scene, Marion Crane is wearing a white bra because Hitchcock wanted to show her as being angelic. After she has taken the money, she's wearing a black bra because now she has done something wrong and evil. Similarly, before she steals the money, she has a white purse. After she steals the money, she has a black purse. The shower scene was shot from December 17th through December 23rd, 1959. It features 50 different camera angles and includes 77 cuts. Hitchcock used Bosco chocolate syrup instead of blood because it showed up better on camera. Playboy playmate Marlee Renfro was used as a body double for Janet Leigh in some of the shots. Before Psycho came out in 1960, movie theaters would play shows on rotation all day long. People would come in the middle of one and stay to the middle of the next. Alfred Hitchcock made all the movie theater owners sign a contract that they would not let anyone in until the start of the film, and once the movie started, nobody else could come until the next showing. This began formalizing mandatory seating times at movie theaters, which would continue forever.
You must see Psycho from the beginning to end to enjoy it fully. Therefore, do not expect to be admitted into the theater after the start of each performance of the picture. We say no one, and we mean no one. Not even the manager's brother, the President of the United States, or the Queen of England. God bless her.
Upon its release in the summer and fall of 1960, Psycho grossed a total of $32 million at the box office, making it the second highest grossing film of 1960, after Spartacus. This movie was first scheduled to air on U.S. network television in the fall of 1966. Just before it was set to air, Valerie Percy, the daughter of Republican U.S. Senate candidate Charles Percy, was stabbed to death by an intruder in the family's home in Highland Park, Illinois. As of the 2020s, the murder remains unsolved. It was deemed prudent under the circumstances to postpone the scheduled airing of Psycho. The first U.S. television station to show the movie was WABC-TV Channel 7 in New York City on their late-night movie series The Best of Broadway on June 24th, 1967. Ultimately, this movie was not shown on U.S. network television until 1970, following a highly successful theatrical re-release in 1969. At that time, Universal Pictures released it on the syndication market, where it quickly became a popular staple on local late-night horror movie showings. Psycho was first released to the home video market in 1979 on Laserdisc. Psycho is considered emblematic for the erosion of the Hays Code censorship standards during the 1960s. Sam Loomis and Marion Crane were depicted as lovers, sharing the same bed. Marion was wearing a bra during their moments of intimacy. The Hays Code prohibited any depictions of unmarried couples in the same bed at all. In 1968, after several years of minimal enforcement, the Hays Code would be abolished. The MPAA rating system wasn't created until 1968, and from time to time, they would re-rate older films. Psycho was given an R rating by the MPAA in 1984, even though the film had already been released for 24 years. Psycho is the oldest movie to be rated R. This film has been described as an inspiration to two different horror film genres. The splatter film, showing graphic depictions of gore on screen, and the slasher film, depicting serial killers stalking and murdering groups of people. Multiple characters in various horror films were inspired by Psycho. In the 1978 film Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis was cast as the heroine in part because she was the daughter of Janet Leigh. Dr. Sam Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, was named after John Gavin's character in this movie. The name of Marion Chambers, the nurse in Halloween, played by Nancy Stevens, is inspired by the characters Marion Crane and Sheriff Chambers. The character Billy Loomis, played by Skeet Ulrich in the 1996 classic Scream, was also named after this film, as was Bates High School in the 1976 horror film Carrie. In 1992, this movie was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally, aesthetically, and historically significant to American history. This movie is creepy in a way that almost seems ahead of its time. I first saw it in the 1990s, and I thought it was good. You can tell it had a dramatic influence on horror movies in the decades following its release. I highly recommend the 1960 horror classic, Psycho.